The very first thing I'm going to show you is how to keyframe, fade in from black and fade out to black. Clicking on the wrench, you have to make sure that it says show video keyframes, because if it does not, you do not get that white line. We need to add keyframes to that white line. Once we're here, you're going to click on your pen tool. I'm going to make one keyframe just after the 2-second mark and then one right at the end. Once I have 2 keyframes here, I can use my selection tool and just drag the last keyframe to the bottom. And then as I scrub across, you will notice that my video fades out to black. So if I want to fade into black, same thing. I need to create a keyframe at the beginning and then a little further down. So my selection tool, I'm just going to drag my keyframe to the bottom and I can scrub across and I'm fading in. Now if I were to put another clip on a different video channel, it will fade into the other clip. So let's actually move this one up. And then what I'm going to do is drag another video underneath. And now that I put my second clip underneath, as I scrub across, I can see that my video is cross-dissolving into another. The first technique I showed you how to fade in and fade out using keyframes directly on the timeline. Another technique that you can do is making sure that you have your clip selected. You can go up to your effect control and we can add keyframes from here. So if I want to move my cursor over to where I want my keyframe to start, I can click on this little stopwatch. Once I've done that, it creates my first keyframe. And then I'm going to move across. And I can add another keyframe by clicking on this little diamond. From here, I can turn my opacity down to 0. And then you will see that again, it goes and it fades out. Anyone who's really familiar with After Effects might prefer to work with the stopwatch keyframing system, but it is up to you on how you want to do your fade in and fade outs. The last technique I'm going to show you is how you can use your effects controls and you can dip to black. If you're in your editing view, you're not going to see your effect control panel, so just make sure you have the effects selected, and over on the sidebar you will see that you have your effects. If I type in dip, and it should come up. So I have dip to black. I want to do a fade in, so I'm just going to fade in from black. And then if I scrub across from the very beginning, you will see that it starts to fade in. If you want to adjust this, if you're feeling that it is just a little too slow, I can drag this back and I can have it fade in a lot faster. You can manually type it in, and that's a really fast fade in. Now that you're comfortable working with your effects panel, I'm going to show you another technique to cross dissolve. So the first technique was you keyframed your clip on top and then it would fade out to the clip below. A second technique is if I grab another video clip, and I'm going to make these a little smaller so you can see a little bit better. And then over in my effects panel, again, you want to make sure that your effects panel is shown. So if you're in editing, you're not going to see it. You have to click on effects. I'm going to type in cross dissolve. And actually it just comes up if you type in cross, but if you want to type in the whole thing, you can. And I'm going to drag it between the 2 clips, and sometimes you'll get this little error that says insufficient media. Sometimes you will get an error that says insufficient media. This transition will contain repeated frames. Just hit OK. Usually it turns out to be OK anyways. And as I'm scrubbing across, I can see that the 2 clips are fading from each other. If you click on cross dissolve, over in your effects control, you have the ability to edit this. So if you wanted to extend it, you can, and you can have a slower cross dissolve. If you want to make it faster, you can just drag it in and you can have a really fast fade from one to another. So the cross dissolves, cuts, fade to blacks are the cleanest, best techniques used for any sort of media going from one clip to another. But if you wanted to work with different video transitions, you can. Now that you know how to do it, all you'd have to pick is, let's say you want to work with a wipe. You would drag it between the two, and you would see that, let's say for example, you're using a barn door. And then again, up in your effects controls, you can change your media here. And if you don't want to work with it, you click on it and hit delete on your keyboard and it is gone. And that's it.